booktube, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. There's a whole bunch of new people here. I'm so glad that you're here. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me on my bookish journey. Today I'm here to do a tag. I think this is my third time doing this tag. It's called the Book Postscript Tag. This is going to be the 2022 edition of it. And I believe this tag was originally created by Adam at Memento Mori. I'm not sure if he's still doing anything on booktube or not, but I will still link to try to link to his original video down below. It's kind of like a reflection on your reading year. Now, on Friday, my Friday Reads video will be my top 5 books of the year. Let's get into the questions. First of all, the longest book you read this year and the book that took you the longest to finish. So the longest book I read this year, and my copy's upstairs, I didn't grab it, is Gone with the Wind. I read back in January. I did make a review video of that, so you can check that out. That is, I think, 1,037 pages or something like that. So something along those lines, over 1,000 pages. And the book that it took me the longest to finish was Shakespeare for every day of the year. So I started this in January, and then I confess I cheated a little bit if the book police are watching. I finished it in November, just to try to give myself some time to read some other things. Let's see, a book you read in 2022 that was outside your comfort zone. And I no longer own this book. I sent this out to one of you. It was Confederates in the Attic by Tony Horowitz. And Tony Horowitz moves back to the East Coast and wakes up one morning and there's like a Civil War reenactment troupe like going past where he lives, and then he kind of gets just sucked up into this world and spends a lot of time going to different places in the South, and trying to understand kind of this sort of Confederate worship, if you will, that some people in the South had. A lot of people, when I talked about it on my channel, a lot of people had comments of like, it's not like that anymore. And so, because that was definitely a book that I'd had for a really long time and hadn't read. Yeah, so it was just a little, it made me uncomfortable, but it was good. It was good to have my eyes opened a little bit, because it's only been within the past 6 years or so that I've seen a Confederate flag where I live. I don't know why. I don't know why we would have anyone here would have a Confederate flag, but nonetheless. So I don't really get exposed to that kind of stuff here. And yeah, Tony Horowitz, like, he went into this one family's home. I still remember this scene so clearly, and it was just like, I don't know, an altar, or like the whole room like worshipped Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson and, you know, big Confederate leaders, and I was like, holy cow. So anyway, so that was definitely outside my comfort zone. How many books did you reread in 2022? And you know, I was so surprised that this number was so high. So this year I have read 56 books. I am hoping to get to 57 before the clock strikes midnight on the 31st. But I reread at least 12 books this year, which I'm like, really, that is a lot for me. That is a lot. So I was really, really pleased by that. And so, oh gosh, yeah, I mean, Gone with the Wind was a reread. I reread a couple Pulitzers, that Gone with the Wind's Pulitzer, but it's sort of a challenge to myself to reread some Pulitzers that I hadn't read for a really long time, or before I started my Pulitzer project. And so I reread The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay now in November. I also reread Much Ado About Nothing. There were a lot. There were a lot of them. So I felt really, like I said, that's really impressive for me. I don't do a lot of rereading. Question 4, favorite reread of 2022. So that has to go to the Pulitzer winner now in November by Josephine Johnson, which has been reprinted this year. I'm so happy. So this is just an amazing book. I did do a review video of this, so I will link to that down below. Now in November, I read with Kim at middle of the book march, and she had just read it the year before, and so it was a kind of a fun thing where like we didn't really spoil anything for each other, like that wasn't a possibility, but we'd both read the book before. It was just much farther in the past for me than it was for Kim, but that was a great time. And this book, so good. The writing is just really, really incredible. And it is, of course, about the Depression and the Dust Bowl. So I think you can tell that by the cover there. So not the happiest book in the world, but a book that definitely deserves so much more attention. And like I said, I'm really glad that this is finally available to more people. The edition I have is from the UK because I could not buy a copy in America when I was reading it. So let's see, question 5, a book you read in 2022 that you look forward to rereading. So for this one, I'm going to go with another buddy read that I did this year, Passing by Nella Larson. And I read this with Sandy at Miss Reads a Lot and Denise from La Rosa Reads. And it's just a slim little thing. This is one of the books that I never probably would have discovered without booktube. I don't know, I guess since there was a film adaptation, maybe I might have, but anyway, I've enjoyed reading this book. I think I need to reread it though. I'm already feeling like, oh, I need to go back to that. There were a couple other books like that as well this year that I really felt like, yeah, should be read again. So let's see. Question 6, favorite short story or novella you read in 2022. So, I mean, I suppose I've read some novellas, but I did read a short story. I only read one short story this year. That's weird. But I read a short story from this very ancient Dover edition, The Best Ghost Stories of Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. I read a narrative, I think it's a narrative of a haunted house or something like that. It was creepy in a kind of clinical sort of way or whatever. There's not very many short stories in this book, so I don't know, I may just like try to read one a month and so I can pass this on to like a free library or something like that. That was one of the prompts for Victober this year, and so that is why I read this short story. So the only one. Okay. Question 7, Mass Appeal, a book you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. Okay, so I'm going to give you two choices here. One of them, I don't know if this book has mass appeal or not, but if you haven't read Macbeth by William Shakespeare, I would really recommend that. I read it at the beginning of last year, and it's kind of stayed with me this year. I watched 2 film adaptations of Macbeth, but it has just come up kind of a lot in some of my other reading this year. I didn't realize how often Macbeth is referenced. And even when I was reading it, I was like, oh, I think that sounds so familiar. Like, somebody else was referencing Shakespeare, not the other way around, obviously, but not that Shakespeare wasn't like notorious for stealing other people's stories, but yeah. So I think if you haven't read Macbeth, you should, just because it is referenced a lot in other works. So and everyone can use a little Shakespeare. But I also would say mass appeal, especially for booktube, the Polysyllabic Spree by Nick Hornby. This was a reread for me this year. Might have even been the third time I read it. I'm not sure. I love these editions. These are essays that Nick Hornby wrote for The Believer magazine, and then they were published by McSweeney's into book format, and I love these little editions. There are 4 of them. If you want all 4 plus like a few extra ones, which I think is unnecessary, there is a book called The 10 Years in the Tub that has all of them, but I already had these, and so that's just what I stuck with. But they're great books about buying books, reading books, why we pick something up at a certain time, or what speaks to us at a certain time, those sorts of things. And they're very funny, very, very funny. So anyway, so I highly recommend this. Would have no problem recommending that to anyone on BookTube, because he does read a real wide variety of books. Let's see. Question number 8, specialized appeal, a book that you liked but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. So this is for people who love Paris and France and French history, and that would be Paris to the Past by Ina Caro. This is traveling through French history by train. This was such a wonderful book, and I learned so much, and I was just like kind of like so irritated with myself because, you know, I've been to Paris twice, and I did not see some of the things that are referenced in here that are actually in Paris, and I don't think I realized how close I was to some other really important things. Don't get me wrong. There is so much to see in Paris alone. You know, you could spend an awful lot of time just there, let alone taking train trips. And they all had to be trips that you could go in a day. Like you could get there, see the site, have lunch, maybe see some more sites or whatever, and then be back to Paris that night. So it's very strategic in terms of how far she gets from Paris. I think she does cheat once and go someplace that's a little farther away, but nonetheless. And I learned, gosh, there was just so much French history that I learned, and it was just wonderful. So anyway, but again, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to everyone because I realize not everyone loves Paris and France as much as I do, but it's okay. All right. So question 9, reflect on your year as a bookish content creator, goals met, good, bad memories, favorite videos you've made. So I did do a video reflecting on my goals from 2022, and so I'll link to that below if you want to watch that. How did I do on my goals for 2022, and then of course earlier this week I made a video about my goals for the next year, which I'm super excited about. I have to say that I do have a favorite video of the year. It is not all of your favorite videos. Especially if you're new, so I do sporadic videos called fake crates. So there's a lot of people on BookTube who subscribe to, like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like boxing companies, like companies that like will send you a book and a bookmark and, you know, I don't know, maybe some swag or I don't know, a candle or something like that or whatever. They'll send you this little package. And I'm not gonna subscribe to any of those. I don't need it. And yeah, but I thought it would be so much fun. Wouldn't it be great? Like if I could have my own company that I could send out packages to all of you. But I also the Mary Poppins within me always is like, oh, but I want my, and I call them fake crates. I want my fake crates to be sort of magical. So I read the annotated Alice this year. Of course, it's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There by Lewis Carroll. It has a bunch of introductions. There's so many bonus features in this book. And it inspired me, of course it did, inspired me to make a fake crate video, and I had so much fun, and I was so silly, and I understand, like, that's not everyone's thing, but I take immense pleasure from making them. So anyway, so like I said, they're a little bit silly, but a little bit on the absurd side. But I think, especially for Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, like, yeah, I think that's the way to go. So, anyway, the next prompt is to tag people. I'm just gonna say, if you want to do this tag, like, you should do this tag. This is the time, this is the moment. If you're looking for a tag video to do or some way to wrap the year up, the book Postscript Tag is always great. And I will be back on Friday with recent reads and my 5 best books of 2022 that I read. I look forward to hearing what you think of my answers, what your answers to some of these questions might be. If there was a video I did that you really loved this year, let me know. Yeah, so feel free to leave a comment, say hello. If you're new also, and you don't particularly feel comfortable leaving comments, you can always leave an emoji or give this video a thumbs up as just simply a way of saying hello. I really appreciate that. So booktube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I will see you on Friday with another video. So talk to you soon. Bye.